Good afternoon. I'm sorry. Good afternoon. All right. Thank you all for being here this amazing afternoon. I guess I should say good evening too, but we're good evening, good afternoon. So I am Paco Retana, and I have the privilege of serving as president of the UCLA Alumni Association and the honor to welcome everyone here in person and online to this UCLA Town Hall. Focus on Metro's future, Sepulveda Transit Corridor project. First, I'd like to offer our land acknowledgement. As a land grant institution, UCLA acknowledges our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrieleño Tonga peoples. Thank you to our ancestors. Second, I'd like to offer a few housekeeping rules. As a participant in this UCLA event, you are agreeing to abide by the tenets of the true Bruin values of integrity, excellence, accountability, and respect, and the principles of community. If you do not abide by these principles, you will be kindly asked to leave the event. For a second, I thought it was a UC Regent meeting, but we're good. We're good. However, truly, I am confident that our gratitude and connection with each other will honor the space. Now, today's town hall was organized to discuss the Sepulveda Transit Corridor, a future transit line that will eventually connect San Fernando Valley and the Westside. If built correctly, it could have a significant impact on the second century of UCLA. As many alumni have experienced, accessing the Westwood campus can be a daunting task on most days via congested freeways and local roads. We have assembled a diverse group from our Bruin community who will share more about this project, its many benefits, and how the UCLA alumni community can engage in this transformative advocacy effort. They are connecting with people to tell their story. To begin our program this evening, please direct your attention to a short video providing an overview of the Sepulveda Transit Corridor and its expected benefits for UCLA and the Westwood area.
Did you hear? LA Metro is planning a new rail line for Los Angeles. It's called the Sepulveda Transit Corridor, or STC for short. It will connect the San Fernando Valley to the west side of Los Angeles. The STC will fill a gap in the region's transit network by providing an alternative to the 405, one of the most congested freeways in the nation.
I would use the Sepulveda Transit Corridor to go back home and see my family who all lives in the valley. With the Sepulveda Transit Corridor, it would take about less than 15 minutes to get home.
For my daily commute, I live in the San Fernando Valley in the city of Chatsworth. Typically, my commute could be anywhere from 1 hour to an hour and 30, depending on traffic and also the time of the year.
4 of the 5 options considered for the STC project include a station on the UCLA campus. It would connect the Purple D Line station in Westwood Village. With a growing population of over 85,000 people visiting UCLA each day, including students, employees, medical patients, and those attending sporting and cultural events, an on-campus station isn't just beneficial, it's a necessity for our future.
Having this transit line at UCLA wouldn't just save time, but it would honestly change all these patients' lives, but also workers like myself that come from the valley and spend a lot of time just sitting in traffic. It's more than convenience, it's about access, equity, and supporting the health of our community here at Westwood, but also the San Fernando Valley.
Access to transit is a major source of inequity in Los Angeles, especially for low-income households, seniors, and those with disabilities. By selecting an alternative with the highest projected ridership, LA Metro will not only improve accessibility and equity for all Angelenos, but will also make a significant investment in protecting our environment.
It will also lessen traffic in the Sepulveda Pass, which will have a huge ripple effect across Los Angeles, mitigating pollution, improving commute times for everyone in the city, and really connecting parts of the city that feel completely isolated from each other as it stands.
If built correctly, a Sepulveda Transit Corridor station on the UCLA campus with a direct connection to the Purple D Line in Westwood Village.
It's trying. That's right. There's no indication. Oh, yay. All right. Thank you. Now we will hear some brief remarks from Veronica Padilla, Executive Director of the Pacoima Beautiful, a leading environmental justice organization based in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. Veronica.
Thank you. And very happy to be with all of you. I wish I was there in person. My name is Veronica Padilla Campos, as Nato said. I am the director of Pacoima Beautiful. We are an environmental justice organization that serves the Northeast San Fernando Valley since about 1996. The Northeast San Fernando Valley is where I grew up, where my family still lives, and where I get to serve every day through Pacoima Beautiful. I'm here as a Bruin twice actually. I received my BA in Geography and Environmental Studies in 2003 and my master's in Urban Planning in 2006. As an undergrad, I lived in university apartments, so I was really lucky to be able to have the convenience and the ability to immerse myself in the college life, especially as an undergrad. But I also had to pay for college myself, had to work a lot. I only had a few grants, right? So it was difficult to study and also work to be able to pay for housing. When I went back for my master's, I didn't have the grant, so I did have to take some loans out and had to commute. And you had to apply for parking at that time. So sometimes you would get parking. It was super expensive, but you didn't always knew if you were going to receive it or not. So that was pretty stressful. There was many times where I had to couch surf if I had to stay late in campus and study for a test and be up early the next day for class. So it was difficult. The times where I would commute back and forth from home and school, it took about 2 hours of each way. And when I went to school, they didn't have those cool podcasts that they have now and things to listen to in the car, right? So it was really unproductive being in those car rides. And I literally had to give myself a sort of pep talk to, right before I entered the traffic. And so I wouldn't recommend it. And I know a lot of people still go through this every day. And that 405 is a bit of a nightmare if that's what you take. There's other smaller streets, but even that's not much relief. So I was really happy to be here today and talk about my support for the Sepulveda Transit Corridor. I think it would be so helpful for so many people. It would have been for me had it been available. I know it would have been I know it would be a lifesaver for many people. And we need to ensure that there is a stop at UCLA, not somewhere in Westwood, because we all know that even from Westwood Village to campus, it's still like a 30-minute bus ride, right? So we really need a direct stop on campus. And I commend UCLA because I was reflecting and thinking, they're saying yes to a bus stop, which is going to be very disruptive in the sense during construction. But I think they also understand how important it is for the students and their faculty and just everybody from the UCLA community to have this available. So I really think it's great that they're saying yes to this and they're really working to advocate for the stop. So basically, by having this transit corridor, it's going to be reducing commuting times and really offer an equitable and accessible transit option for many Valley residents, giving back hours to every day to people that commute and providing access to those that not only work on the west side, but are also seeking medical attention or are attending school. So I hope that this is done right and it's done quickly. And I just really thank you for allowing me to share my story and express why I'm happy to support this project. Because I've sort of been through these challenges, I feel like accurately advocate for the need for this project. And I also look forward to using it and be able to visit campus more regularly, especially to see the basketball game, the women's basketball game. I want to be able to do that and bring my girls. So again, thank you. I wish I was there, but I know you have a great event for tonight. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Veronica, for your support, wisdom, and sharing your lived experience with all of us. Now, it is now my pleasure to introduce Janareth Lopez, who was the instrumental in the formation of the Sepulveda Transit Corridor for All, STC for All Coalition, and its Student Ambassador Program. When she was a student at UCLA, Janareth will when she was a student, where did I go here? Janareth will moderate a panel, discussion with community advocates and transportation experts. Lastly, we'll hear from Stephen San, chair of the Westwood Community Council, who will explain how you can get involved. Thank you, and go Bruins.
Thank you, Veronica, for joining us online and for sharing your experience. And thank you, Paco, for the introduction. I am a class from 2023, and I helped build the STC for All Coalition and really garnered that engagement from current students. So I'm really excited to see how much it has grown, including educational institutions, community council, nonprofit groups, and even business groups. And so much so, it's grown a lot in the sense that so many individual supporters have joined, including elected officials. Today, I'm going to be moderating the panel of three important experts who will give a little bit of insight of what the STC project is and how we could all get involved as alumni. So it's my pleasure to introduce Karen Mack, who is the executive director and founder of LA Commons. She's also the planning commissioner for the city of LA. Secondly, we'll be joining Kobe King, who is the CEO of High Point Strategies and a transportation expert from Southern California. And lastly, we are joined with Vito Costanzo, partner of the Holland and Knight and former board member of UCLA Alumni Association. And he is currently co-lead for the UCLA Alumni STC Outreach. So for this program, I'm going to be asking them a few questions, and then I'll reserve some time at the end for the public here in person and those of you who are joining online to ask any questions you may have about the project and why this is just such a critical rail line to have. So thank you for joining us. As many of us know, the Santa Monica Mountains pose a natural barrier between the valley and the west side. The corridor here on the Sepulveda Pass on the 405 is one of the most congested corridors in the nation, exacerbating pollution, and as we heard in the video, just really delaying travel times. Vito, I know that you and several members of your family came to UCLA. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges that you experienced coming to campus?
So when I was a student here, I grew up in Glendale. And sometimes I would take the risk and come back to campus on a Monday morning. It always made my parents very nervous, thinking that I would miss class and, I should just come back on Sunday night. And I learned how nervous they were when my son was a student here a few years ago. And he had this liking to coming home during finals week so that he could relax and get home cooked meals and then come to campus for his finals. And we had to drive him. And that was nerve-wracking. It was so nerve-wracking to get on the 405 from the valley where we live and to try to get him to his final on time. And I just started asking my wife to do it because I couldn't do it. As you all know, if you want to leave the valley during rush hour, my preferred option was don't, right? Just figure out another way. Now my son works here. And so now he knows what it's like. And sometimes when he's coming home, there's all kinds of obstacles, accidents, fires, on top of the normal stress of driving there. So he is one example of someone who would use this system to come to campus, as would, many other people that work here.
Thank you for sharing. And clearly this is still an issue prevalent for our Bruin community. Any alumni here who had to commute can probably really resonate with that. And so much so that majority of Angelinos are in agreement about a new transit development being necessary for the Sepulveda Pass. So much so that in 2016, county voters approved Measure M to help fund transit improvements, including the STC project. Kobe, can you give a quick history about the STC project and how that funding is allocated and how that process will come about?
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer. I also want to thank you and the Alumni Association for hosting this great event. I will answer your question, but I do just want to very quickly say that like Vito and like Veronica before her, I commuted to UCLA for a long time. And I will say when I was a student here, I had a pretty cheap car, and going over the 405, going over the Sepulveda Pass every day was really hard on my car, and eventually it broke down. And so I did have to, for a while, take the bus to get here. And yeah, 2 hours each way was really a pretty typical day. And it was pretty rough. It gave me a really good idea, but just how important it is to have a good transit connection between the Valley and the San Fernando Valley. And as you said, General, back in 2016, Valley voters and county voters agreed and passed Measure M overwhelmingly. It made a previous sales tax, half-cent sales tax permanent, and also added a new permanent half-cent sales tax as well. Now, in that first one, Measure R, county voters allocated $1 billion for a project to connect the Westside and the San Fernando Valley by rapid transit. And then what Measure M did 8 years later was add additional money to that. And one of the things that and since then, so prior to, in between those two, that $1 billion was really for kind of initial planning and initial studies, and then eventually to get going on construction. But we're obviously a long way from that. Since then, what Metro has done is, and you saw from the video that Metro is currently studying 5 different alternatives to connect the Valley to the West Side. But while Measure M did put a great deal of money through sales tax into the project, it's really important to understand that that is not the budget for the project. The project is going to not only use the money that LA County voters are directly contributing through Measures R and M, but we also do expect that because this project is going to be so significant for not just the Valley and the West Side, but for the region and in fact for the country. I mean, as was mentioned, it's going to help relieve traffic on probably the most congested corridor in the entire country and one of the most congested in the world. It's going to have a regional impact. And so when you're competing for federal funds, it's going to compete really, really well. And I know that we have members of Congress, including United States senators, that are really interested in making sure that when the time comes to fund the project, when construction starts some years from now, not just the money that's in Measure R and Measure M, but also federal funds and state funds and all kinds of other funds. So the project is going to get built. There are some who kind of talk about the budget and say, oh, well, Measure M didn't allocate enough money for it, but that's really not an issue. The impact of this project is going to be so significant and is going to make so many lives so much better that I don't have any doubt that the funds will be found to construct this project the way it needs to be built.
I agree, Kobe, and thank you for explaining that aspect of funding. The investment is there. We see a future for LA to really just change the way Angelinos get around. And as many of us probably know, limited to transit equity is a major inequity in Los Angeles. Low resource communities rely on these public transit systems the most. Seniors, individuals with disabilities rely on this. And so investing in the STC project could really, really change the way these folks get around to UCLA campus and any neighboring offerings. Karen, not only do you use public transit regularly, but you facilitate local engagement on issues regarding equity and access. How do you envision the STC project addressing these issues and just really improving the lives of those who rely on public transit the most?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward, you know, I mean, when you think about the nexus between transportation and housing, you know, not to say that housing is inexpensive in the valley, but it's cheaper than it is on this side of town. So, you know, being able to access a public transportation option that will allow people to get from the valley to, you know, this area, which is one of the city's most important job centers, I think is the issue. And so, you know, that I think that should be our, you made it here, huh? My husband made it finally. UCLA parking. You know, the challenge of really, you know, giving people access to, you know, easy transportation. Like I love taking public transportation, let me just tell you. And, but, you know, I live right on Olympic Boulevard, which is like probably one of the city's most, you know, Olympic, Wilshire, like I'm in such a transit rich area. So I just walk out of my door 1 block. I can take a bus downtown for my planning commission meetings. In 45 minutes I'm there, which is about probably the same time that it would take for me to drive and park. And so like, we want to give everybody that opportunity to have, you know, convenient access, you know, right out their door that allows them to, you know, and in this case, travel this, you know, very challenging route. And the opportunity, I think, you know, like psychologically, the valley is very, you know, separate. I don't know, you know, I'm like a little older than some people in this room, but you, some of you, I think, may remember when the valley was trying to secede, like, right? So this is like the opposite, right? It's like, come valley, be part of us. We love you. And, you know, sort of making it easy for people to, you know, go back and forth. And really, you know, I think that's the opportunity with transit in general, is like, how do we make Los Angeles feel more connected? And this line and the connection to Wilshire, actually, I never can. I have to go by the colors. Purple. Right. Right. The letters just, I'm like, no, I can't. And so the purple line, that connection is going to be like, you know, incredible, really, to bring those two together. So I think, you know, it will make a huge difference for everybody of all income levels, I think. And that's our challenge. We want to do equity, but we want everybody to take public transportation, because that's what's going to make, you know, us feel like we're more part of the city. And that's our challenge, because to deal with these, you know, gigantic issues that we deal with, we want people to feel a part of Los Angeles and to want to be, you know, civically engaged in the work together to make Los Angeles the city we want it to be.
Thank you, Karen. And I agree. A lot of the regions in LA feel very disconnected, but with STC, there's great potential to connect not only the valley to the west side, but then down east, like you said, on the Purple D line, and then in the future expand to LAX. As we saw in the video, Metro is considering 5 alternatives, 4 of which have that stop on campus in connection to the Purple Line on Wilshire. We know that this is a pivotal year for the STC project. Kobe, can you describe a little bit more about how Metro makes this decision on choosing the alternatives, specifically in regards to considering the environmental review report that's coming out?
Absolutely, Jenrith. So a project like this you would think, okay, well, let's just pick a route and then construct it. Because of the amount of money that's involved, and because of, frankly, the complexity of the 405 corridor, it does take a long time to both study the area. So Metro created a study area basically from Van Nuys all the way down to LAX and kind of figured out, all right, what are the needs from a transit point of view in that area? How could we both address the traffic, address the needs of people trying to get between the two regions and to connect to other parts of the system, and how can we address the climate challenges that all that traffic creates, and how can we lessen that? And so that took a while. And then the phase that we're in right now is an environmental review, where Metro originally, as you know, started with 6 different alternatives. One of them was eventually dropped, so we're down to 5 alternatives, a couple of monorail, 3 heavy rail. And what they're doing right now is creating what's known as a draft environmental impact report. Those of you who are familiar with the environmental process, we have this law in California called CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. And what that means is that before the government makes any kind of major decisions, it has to examine the environmental impacts of that decision. And so they look at all different kinds of factors, again, air quality and noise and historic issues and geology and all those things. And so literally for the last number of years, Metro and its 2 main contractors have been looking at these at the impacts, and we're at a really crucial stage, as you mentioned, where this environmental impact is finally going to be released, and that should happen hopefully in the next 30 to 60 days. That kicks off a really important process in the project. This is like one of the biggest milestones for a major construction process, is getting out this draft environmental impact report. That will kick off a 60-day period, probably 60 days, where people will be able to examine the report, which will be thousands of pages, and then make comments on it, things you like about it, things you don't like about it, reply back to Metro. What Metro staff will then do is take all those comments in, and they will actually reply, or they'll respond, I guess is the correct word. They'll respond to all those comments, and they will, to the extent that those comments are persuasive in terms of making changes, some additional changes will be made. And then, really important thing, they will do kind of 2 things at once. One is they will draft or prepare a final environmental impact report, which will also qualify which will also help qualify for the federal funds that I talked about earlier. But then they will make a recommendation to the 13-member Metro board, what's known as a locally preferred alternative, an LPA. And what that LPA is, essentially, is just a recommendation by staff. Which of those 5 alternatives does staff think makes the most sense, both in terms of cost benefit, in terms of least impacts, and in terms of what is going to provide the most bang for the buck for Los Angeles County residents. Then the Metro board will make a decision. Hopefully sometime, I would say early next year probably is what it's looking like. And then once that decision is made, the staff it'll then go from what's known as the planning department to the program management or construction department, and they will actually start bidding out the project to someone who will complete the design and then actually start constructing the thing. And then eventually, when all of you have children, no, I'm kidding.
At UCLA.
At UCLA, then they'll be able to ride from the valley to they'll be able to get from Van Nuys to Ackerman in 15 to 20 minutes, which will be pretty amazing. But in any case, we still have a long way to go. But the thing is that this EIR that's going to come out very soon is a really, really critical step. And it's going to be really important for the campus community and the alumni and all of the stakeholders that make up this great coalition that makes up STC for All to really come together and advocate for the kind of project that we want.
Thank you, Kobe. And because it's such a critical year, there's a lot of opportunity for public engagement to occur. LA Metro often holds community meetings and town halls where us alumni and the Bruin community and even other Angelenos who are directly impacted can raise equity concerns, accessibility concerns, sustainability concerns, and really have our voices heard when this alternative ultimately gets chosen. And Vito, since you're co-leading the alumni STC outreach, can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like and how us alumni can get engaged?
Sure, thank you. So when I first started volunteering with UCLA Government Relations, I was a bit intimidated that I would have to talk with legislators, government officials, to try to persuade them, in that case, to put money into the budget. And what I realized was that I was one of their constituents, and they would listen to me because the things that I was talking about were very easy to understand. You know, all of us know about UCLA. We know what this university needs. We're familiar with it. And those are the types of things that I would talk to the legislators about. And they listened and they paid attention. The same thing goes for this project. Our participation in advocating for a stop on UCLA's campus affects us all. And we can all talk about that. We can tell them our personal stories. We can tell them stories about, for example, a woman I met who works in housekeeping here. And she lives in Van Nuys, and her husband works in Culver City, and they have one car. So she spends several hours every day on the freeway. Those are the types of things. And alumni can get involved in advocating at a Metro board meeting, commenting on the environmental impact report, and simply by joining the coalition. You can simply put your name in there as a supporter of this project and talking to your fellow alums as well. So there is a way for all of us to have input on this project because it's easy. It's easy to do as alums.
Thank you. And Karen, you're a community advocate and also very familiar with Metro as a planning commissioner. Can you share how you have seen public engagement shape these important projects and how that really impacts the way decisions are being made?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What I'm thinking about is our housing element, which was just passed, I think it was last year. And as you all know, LA has a challenging housing situation, not just because we don't have enough housing, but you know, how do you create something that will enable people to stay in their housing, you know, create more rights for tenants, et cetera, et cetera. And what I love about the planning department and, you know, the city's planning department staff is incredible. They partnered with organizations, you know, advocacy organizations to really think about what does it mean to create housing in Los Angeles through an equitable approach. And so, you know, there was incredible influence by not only these advocates for housing, but also for individuals who, you know, that's in some ways what happens at our planning commission meetings. The public comes and speaks, and we really take seriously what the public says in terms of what their needs are. And when we have discretion, which is sometimes a challenge in this environment, but things like the housing elements, our community plans, we have a lot of discretion. And so we listen to community members and try to find that nexus that will allow us to further equity. I was the chair actually of our equity subcommittee for the Planning Commission, and we actually have a statement. If I had thought about it, I would have read it. I would have, can I find it? I'm going to find it for you because I want you to know how serious we are about the practice of equity. And I love this statement so much. And I, you know, because I had such a great hand in creating it. Let's see. Okay, equitable planning demands that race does not determine whether or not one thrives in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles City Planning Commission prioritizes a planning process that centers the needs of those most harmed by systemic racism. Our goal is the creation of affordable, prosperous, resilient, and healthy communities where all Angelenos experience the feeling that they belong. So take that, Trump. So anyway, but that, when we make our policies, we're really thinking about that, and when we listen to the public, we're thinking about that. So, and I know Metro has similar inclinations in terms of really wanting to create a city that serves everyone. So I really encourage people to get involved. I'm really a booster for civic engagement because I think that Los Angeles is a city that it functions best when people are engaged. When you have a city this large, this diffuse, this diverse, you need people to be part of the process in order for the solutions that we need that serve people to be realized.
Thank you. It's good to know what that process looks like from an insider's point of view. So then us as the stakeholders who are being impacted by these major projects know how our voices are being considered. Our ultimate goal for the STC for All Coalition was not only to raise awareness, but to get people engaged and get people involved. How can they participate at LA Metro board meetings? How can they send public comments and really raise those concerns on the STC project? And in the future, when we think about LA, we want an LA that's connected, that has these public transit systems that serve all of us, and so that we can rely on them and improve efficiency in time commutes, being able to connect with one another, whether that's here on campus for our students, staff, faculty who rely on it the most, or even Angelenos from outside of the county who want to come see what all that UCLA has to offer. Kobe and Vito, do either of you want to add on how a UCLA stop in connection to the Purple Line would help improve this accessible mobility standpoint?
Well, let me start by just echoing a couple of things that Karen said and Veronica said, and were in the video, and maybe broaden it a little bit. This project, first of all, I don't know how many of you ride Metro Rapid Transit on a regular basis. I actually ride it pretty often myself. It is becoming a pretty robust system. I mean, it's hard to believe when I first moved to LA in '78, there was no rail lines in Los Angeles. And since then, we've added the Red Line, now known as the B Line, and the D Line, which is coming, the Purple Line, and then we have a number of light rail lines as well. There's one brand new light rail being constructed in the San Fernando Valley. Building these things is really difficult, especially in an already highly urbanized, pretty dense place like Los Angeles. But the amount of commitment that the voters of Los Angeles have made to building a rail system in LA is actually pretty remarkable if you step back from it. I mean, we kind of are in a golden age of rapid transit in Los Angeles, putting the lie to what everyone says about it being a completely car-centric culture. So the change is happening. But for all of that, it's important to understand the scale of what this project is going to do. The day it opens, it will be busier by a fair amount than any other rail line that is currently operating in Los Angeles. The station that would be at UCLA would be the busiest non-transfer station in the entire system the day it opens, because the need is so great to connect the jobs and the educational opportunities and the medical care and the entertainment and places like Century City and Santa Monica, because the line is also going to go down to the Expo line, the E line. And so you'll be able to get to a variety of different places through that connection as well. But connecting all those opportunities to the people, to our traditional bedroom communities in the San Fernando Valley, to the Metrolink stop so that people can get in from Ventura County and Simi and some of those other places. It is going to be, as Karen said, a knitting together of places that have been for so long separated by these very big mountains that are between us. But it's not just those people too. The commuters who are still going to be in their car, they're going to be in a better place as well, because this project is, going to take 10,000 or more cars off the 405 and the other north-south streets like Roscomar and Beverly Glen and other places like that. I mean, the improvement that this can have for the entire Western Los Angeles County and well beyond is really hard to overestimate. And so the potential for this project, if we can just really keep it going, make sure that the Metro Board continues to move this project forward and continue to talk to our elected officials about funding this project and just keeping the momentum going. We really can't emphasize enough how important that is to the lives of all of us here in Los Angeles County.
And I just want to agree with that. This project will enrich us all. It gives you access to your city in a better way that we currently have. There are many times that a lot of us will look at maybe an event going on the West Side or a friend and think about, do I want to drive there on a Friday night? And maybe you don't do it, right? Maybe you don't have that contact. And what a project like this does is it gives you access to your city and the cultural aspects of your city that are there. It gives you contact with people that you might not otherwise come in contact with. And it enriches us all if you can do that.
Thank you all for sharing. Change is coming, and there's many ways we can all get involved on this transit line. Now I'm going to allow the public to ask any questions that you may have about the STC project and any insight that our panelists can have in answering your questions. So we'll start here in person, and then we'll move on to those of you virtually.
Hi, I am a very grateful traveler through public transportation, very happy with the E-line. I live in the West Adams area, and I get to campus faster than someone who lives in Santa Monica on 3rd and Wilshire. My question is about the challenges, even in Westwood, because MTA has had problems with just buses on Hillgard. You know, they had to change on weekends. They cannot, the residents don't want the buses on Hillgard Avenue. What are the challenges that you're going to be facing as it comes closer to the West Side?
Well, look, every major construction project that Metro undertakes always has challenges. You know, I take the Red Line pretty frequently. I take the A Line occasionally as well, and I take Metrolink all the time. And it's easy to forget when these things work that there was always a little bit of pain in getting them constructed. But at the end of the day, getting through that pain, and I know Metro tries as much as possible to minimize any construction impacts. We see right now that the Purple Line extensions, we're finally at the phase now where Wilshire Boulevard, which had been torn up for years, is now being recovered. And before we know it, you know, the pain of the construction of the Purple Line will be a distant past or a distant memory, and it'll just be super exciting to be able to use that line. And that's going to have I mean, even before the Sepulveda line gets built, before the Olympics, getting the D line out to Westwood is going to be a significant accomplishment. And I think it will also give people an idea of what kind of benefits rapid transit can actually have. And like I said, you know, getting a rapid transit line from Van Nuys to campus and then on to Westwood and then on to the E line is going to be challenging and expensive and time consuming. There's no doubt about it. But Metro has been doing this now for a long time. And, you know, one of the things that I talk about a lot is that the tunnel that goes from, you know, basically Vermont and Wilshire right now, which is the current end of the D line, and is really completed all the way to the VA, and went through some pretty wealthy and hilly communities, but Metro really didn't get hardly any complaints about, you know, there were a lot of objections to the creation of the tunnel, but at the end of the day, once the tunneling started, there really weren't many complaints or problems because Metro's been doing this for a while, and tunneling technology has gotten to the point where they know what they're doing.
Can I just add to that? Because I think that, you know, we've gotten to a point in our trajectory that we have to make some hard decisions together. If we had like planned more before, we might not be dealing with the climate change issues that we're dealing with. So, I hope that people are recognizing the challenge and their role in actually having some discomfort in order to meet the challenges of our age. And so, that's why I'm so bullish on getting people involved in the process, because, it requires incredible creativity and imagination to deal with these situations and discomfort, like riding public transportation sometimes. And let me just say that the issue with public transportation is not that it's difficult, it's just a change in behavior. And so if we can get people to start thinking like that about many things, then we have a chance to move forward.
Thank you. And I believe we have a question from Zoom. Can you please read the question?
Yes. So our attendee via Zoom is asking, if the project commences, will there be disruption on Sepulveda, the 405, and/or alternate routes in and out of the valley? If so, how long? And are there any plans to mitigate the temporary impact? Additionally, they're asking how far north into the valley do these plans intend to go?
I think the conversation about temporary delays with the construction has been discussed. And as our panelists mentioned, to reach that goal in the future and really just reach a net gain from what is to come with the STC project, that'll definitely outweigh the current, when the construction does come. Do any of you want to add on to that question?
I'll just add that I'll answer the last question first, and that is that the route of all 5 alternatives will start at the Van Nuys Metrolink station in Van Nuys, and all 5 alternatives will end somewhere along the Expo line. So it's a pretty long corridor. I think one of the reasons that so many of us who have been following this project for a long time so carefully are really excited about the environmental impact report coming. Those are exactly the kinds of questions that this report is going to answer. And as I said previously, I have confidence that Metro is going to build this project to minimize the amount of impact on construction for everybody, whatever alternative is picked. But we'll have those answers hopefully in the next month or so.
Thank you. And then go ahead, gentlemen in the back.
Hi, so kind of a technical question and a very prescient question. Looking at the alternatives, alternative 2 is just dropped, but it seems to me that alternate 3 isn't really technically and financially feasible. And alternate 4, given the opposition by Fred Rosen and Bel Air and the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, that seems just not really going to be on the table either. And alternative 6 also is not so financially feasible because of the different alignment. So my question is, it's kind of looking to me like it's going to be a 3-way between alternative 1, which I think would be terrible for UCLA because there is no direct station, alternative 5, which is a good option but costly because of the entire underground alignment, and then a no-build option. And so my question is, given what's going on with the state of the economy, with the state of construction going on into the future, how likely is this concern of a no-build option coming to the forefront?
I think the chance of a no-build alternative is between slim and none, and I'll tell you why. First of all, let's remember that construction is not going to start for quite a number of years. The various sales tax alternatives that are in place, that are raising money for the project, are going to continue to raise money. I'm pretty confident that that a request for proposals for construction will not occur during the Trump administration. And so I think we will have a new administration in Washington. What that administration will be, of course, I have no idea. I have my own personal hopes and beliefs, but won't share that right now. In terms of the various alternatives, I really do think that it's just a little bit preliminary to understand both the cost benefit of the various alternatives and also, you know, kind of what funding is going to be out there. And like I said, kind of the answer to my first question is there is going to be a lot of money for this project because it is going to have so much impact. You know, going back to the no-build alternative, there is, when LA County voters passed Measure M by over 70% in 2016, this project was the leading project on the Measure M expenditure plan. The idea that the Metro Board is not going to continue this project forward, I mean, they're definitely going to need some encouragement, but this project is going to go forward. It's going to get built eventually, and we will all benefit from it. I will now say something that maybe is maybe a little more controversial, but I do want to point out that in the San Fernando Valley, the valley, as some of you know, is a little more conservative than other parts of the county. In the past sales tax measures that were before LA County voters, the Valley almost never voted by 2/3 in order to pass that sales tax. And in fact, it had to be super majorities in the rest of Los Angeles County to get anything to pass by 2/3. Measure M was different. Measure M, because Valley voters were told and could see that Measure M would result in significant capital investment in the San Fernando Valley in rapid transit for the first time, and because the Orange Line had shown that rapid transit could be really good, Valley voters voted over 70% for Measure M. Now, there was a group that took an official position against Measure M in 2016. And do you know the name of that group? The Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. They are a tiny minority in the San Fernando Valley. The vast majority, by the way, of elected officials in the San Fernando Valley supported Measure M, and they continue to support this project. The opposition of a few affluent homeowners in the hillside communities is certainly politically problematic, and they have a very outside voice, but I can guarantee you that their objections to this project will not carry the day.
There are many great questions that are being asked by the audience today. And if you guys want to ask any further questions, you can visit STC for All. There's a comment section where y'all can send any questions that you may have to receive any responses on your inquiries. It is now my pleasure to introduce Stephen San, who is the chair of the Westwood Community Council and co-lead of the UCLA Alumni STC Outreach. Thank you for our panelists for joining us today. And now Stephen San will share a little bit more about how us alumni can get involved and get engaged.
Thank you very much, Jenna. Thank you so much. As Jenna mentioned, my name is Steve Sam. I'm a proud double Bruin undergrad and law school. I am chair of the Westwood Community Council and a member of the STC for All Coalition Working Group. And finally, with Vito Costanza, I'm the co-lead of the Alumni Sepulveda Transit Outreach effort. First, I want to say thank you to this tremendous panel. They did a phenomenal job. All of you, our audience here at the James West Center and our audience online, for taking your time on this very important project. I want to thank you for joining to discuss how we can use our collective voices in the process that's underway, which is going to help determine whether the Sepulveda Transit Corridor will be built and where it will go. Now, I know we all have limited time, so if you take one thing away, sign up to join our coalition. It'll take you about 1 minute. Other than that, right now, our only ask is to please share this information and let other alumni know that they can get involved and engaged. Now, Bruins, as you've heard, the Sepulveda Transit Corridor project has the absolute potential to be a transformational game changer in how residents from the San Fernando Valley, students and others get from the Valley to the West Side, including UCLA and Westwood Village, and eventually all the way to LAX, but only if the project is built correctly. And that's where we come in. We need your voice, your engagement, and your input to make sure that when the Metro Board makes this decision of which of the 5 project alternatives they choose, they must choose an alternative that, number 1, has a station directly on the UCLA campus, and number 2, a direct, seamless connection with the Wilshire Purple Line in Westwood Village. We have a quick, short video about our STC for All Coalition. The coalition, it'll illustrate how you can get involved. So let's take a look.
Your voice is needed. LA Metro is planning a new rail line called the Sepulveda Transit Corridor, or STC for short, connecting the San Fernando Valley to the west side of Los Angeles. You can help advocate for an on-campus station at UCLA. The STC will support thousands of commuters to UCLA each day and will connect to the Metro Purple D line in Westwood Village when it opens. The STC for All Coalition was formed to ensure that this future rail line meets the needs of all Angelenos. The diverse coalition includes neighborhood councils, community, business, and environmental organizations, academic institutions, and student groups, all united to advocate for equitable and accessible public transit. By joining the coalition, you'll be informed on the STC project and provided opportunities to get involved and influence LA Metro decision makers through letter writing campaigns, attending key meetings, and more. Public transit must be accessible for all Angelenos, especially for those who rely on it most. A UCLA station ensures access for students, employees, and the community at large. Please join us in advocating for a Sepulveda Transit Corridor station at UCLA with a direct connection to the Purple D line in Westwood Village. A connected region is a thriving region, and everyone deserves easy access to what matters most to them. Visit stcforall.org to learn how to get involved and have your voice heard.
Have your voice heard. Our voices are needed. And by joining our coalition, the STC for All Coalition, you will join many, many thousands of Bruin alumni and other Angelenos, but we need strength in numbers. And when you sign up for the coalition, you're going to get a few. We're not going to spam you. The coalition will be respectful, but the coalition will communicate with you to let you know at key points what you can do. You will be notified from the coalition when you can comment and when you can submit your comments to the Metro Board, and you're going to be given the tools from the Sepulveda Coalition to amplify your voice and to make it easy to communicate with the 13 members of the Metro Board. Now, Bruins, let me tell you, when I talk about this project, and we've been at this for many years now, when I talk about the fact that we're considering rail that will take transit riders from the Valley to the West Side, and the chance to build a station directly on the UCLA campus, and the chance to connect with the Purple Line, the number one reaction I get more than 95% of the time is obviously. Obviously, we want to bring high quality, high speed, high capacity rail transit directly to the 4th largest employer in Los Angeles County. Obviously, we want to make sure that the number 1 ranked public university and the university with the largest enrollment in the state of California, we want to make sure that students can get to the campus from the Valley and throughout Los Angeles County easily. Obviously, we want to make sure that the life-saving resources of the UCLA Health Network, the Ronald Reagan Hospital, and all the clinics, that they are available to residents throughout the county, to patients, and to the family members of those patients. Obviously, we want to make sure that the cultural resources of UCLA, Royce Hall, the Geffen Playhouse, Hammer Museum, the Fowler, the new Nimoy Theater, the Sculpture Garden, the Botanical Garden, those cultural resources should be shared with everyone, and they should be made available. And obviously, we want to make sure that the Sepulveda Transit Corridor will have a direct, seamless connection to the Wilshire Purple Line to create that essential north-south, east-west connectivity. That's what makes for a successful transit network. But if you think that what is obvious, I hope to everyone in this room and those on this Zoom call, if you think that what is so obvious is obviously going to be the decision of the Metro Board, I have 3 words for you: the Green Line. The Green Line is that light rail in the middle of the 105 Century Freeway. The Green Line is the line that was promised to take us directly to LAX. That was promised more than 30 years ago. The green line was the line that was supposed to solve the problem of how do you get to the airport and how do you get out of the airport. But the green line is the line that sadly tricks you and teases you, because when you think you're going to the airport, it takes you in a whole other direction and it never reaches the airport. We cannot allow the Metro Board to make another tragic mistake that they are now spending billions of dollars to try to fix, bringing the K line in because the green line missed the mark. So your voice, our voices are needed to ensure that when the Metro Board makes this critical decision, they hear loudly and clearly that they must choose an option that has that station on the UCLA campus and has that direct seamless connection to the Wilshire Purple Line. So please visit the STC for All website, sign up to be a coalition supporter today, and thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Kobe. Thank you, Vito. And thank you, Stephen. And there's still refreshments left if anyone wants to stick around and get them. But thank you so much for joining us.